What if the biggest reason Stray Kids became one of the most followed groups on the planet has almost nothing to do with their music? JYP Entertainment has quietly acknowledged something over the years that rarely makes headlines: the individual acts of genuine kindness from each of the 8 members, moments that happened off camera, off stage, and far from the spotlight. We're not talking about scripted fan service or carefully managed PR stunts. We're talking about real decisions these men made when nobody was watching, when there was no brand deal attached, no viral moment to chase. From members personally funding causes they never publicly spoke about, to moments backstage that left JYP staff genuinely speechless. These are stories the company itself has confirmed, but the media glossed over in favor of chart numbers and concert revenue. Stray Kids pulled in over 3.7 million album sales in a single year, sold out world tours across 4 continents, and dominated music show wins. But the things you're about to hear might redefine what you think you know about this group. 8 members, 8 stories, and every single one of them verified. Here's what JYP didn't put in the press release, but probably should have. Number 8, the youngest who carries the heaviest heart, IN. Young Jung-in was born on February 8, 2001 in Busan, South Korea, and by the time he was 16 years old, he was standing in front of JYP Entertainment's founder, JY Park himself, on a nationally televised survival show that would decide his entire future. The show, titled Stray Kids, aired on Mnet in 2017, and its premise was brutal. A group of JYP trainees had to prove they deserved to debut together, and anyone could be cut at any stage. Jung-in was the youngest trainee in the room, the one with the least experience, the one whose vocals were still developing, and during the evaluations, he was genuinely at risk of elimination. JY Park did not sugarcoat it. He pointed out that Jung-in's skills were behind the others, that his technique needed significant improvement, and that the gap between him and the more polished trainees was visible. In that moment, most teenagers would have crumbled. But what happened next is something JYP staff members have referenced multiple times in the years since. The other trainees, the ones who were technically his competitors, rallied around Jung-in and made it clear they wanted him in the group, not because of sympathy, but because of something they had seen behind the cameras that the audience at home hadn't fully witnessed yet. Jung-in, despite being the youngest and the most vulnerable in terms of skill level, had been the one consistently checking on the mental state of the older trainees. During the survival show's most stressful filming periods, when members were sleeping only a few hours a night and rehearsing until their bodies gave out, staff members noticed that Jung-in would quietly bring water to members who had forgotten to hydrate, that he would sit next to whoever seemed the most stressed and simply stay there without saying a word, and that he never once complained about his own position, despite knowing he was the most likely to be eliminated. This was a 16-year-old kid doing this, in a competition where his own spot was not guaranteed. Fast forward to the actual debut in 2018, and Stray Kids launched with all 8 members intact, Jung-in included. But the kindness that the staff saw during the survival show did not stop once the cameras from Mnet were gone. It evolved. As the group's schedule became one of the most demanding in Kpop, with back-to-back comebacks, world tours, and variety show appearances, Jung-in became known within JYP Entertainment's building for something that had nothing to do with his singing or dancing. Multiple JYP staff members, including managers and stylists who have worked across several of the company's groups, have noted in behind-the-scenes content and company events that Jung-in is one of the most consistently polite and considerate idols they have ever worked with. This is not a casual compliment. JYP Entertainment has housed artists like 2PM, GOT7, Twice, and ITZY, meaning the staff making these observations have decades of combined experience working with top-tier talent. What makes Jung-in stand out, according to these accounts, is not grand gestures, but relentless small ones. He greets every single staff member by name when he arrives at schedules, including makeup artists, lighting technicians, and security personnel. He remembers personal details about the staff's lives, asking about their children, remembering birthdays, following up on things they mentioned weeks earlier. In an industry where the power dynamic between idol and staff often creates an invisible wall, Jung-in has apparently never acknowledged that wall's existence. At music show recordings, which are notoriously long and exhausting for both artists and the production crews running them, backup dancers who have worked with Stray Kids have shared that Jung-in makes a point of thanking them individually after every stage, not just with a general bow to the group, but by approaching each dancer and acknowledging their specific contribution. This is documented behavior, captured in fan accounts at pre-recordings and confirmed by dancers who have spoken about it on social media. Then there's his relationship with SKZ, the Stray Kids fandom. Jong-in communicates with fans regularly through the Bubble messaging platform, and what distinguishes his messages from standard idol-to-fan communication is their specificity. He does not send generic encouragements. He writes detailed personal reflections about his day, asks fans genuine questions about their lives, and responds to the emotional tone of what fans share with him. During periods when the fandom has gone through collective stress, such as during the group's controversies or long gaps between comebacks, Jong-in has been documented sending messages that directly address the anxiety fans are feeling, not with rehearsed PR language, but with the kind of straightforward honesty that suggests he actually reads and processes what his fans tell him. Beyond the personal interactions, Jong-in has also consistently supported charitable causes connected to his birthday. In Kpop, fan-organized birthday projects often include donations to charitable organizations made in the idol's name, and Jong-in has publicly acknowledged and promoted these efforts, specifically encouraging fans to donate to children's welfare organizations rather than spending money on expensive advertising displays or luxury gifts for him. He has been vocal about preferring fan resources go toward people who need help, rather than toward his own image, which is a stance that not every idol in the industry takes, especially younger ones who might be more focused on the visibility that large-scale birthday projects bring. The accumulation of all of this, the survival show behavior, the staff interactions, the fan communication, the charity stance, paints a picture of someone whose kindness is not performative, but structural, built into how he operates on a daily basis. And what makes it even more notable is his position within the group as the maknae, the youngest member. In Korean culture, the maknae is traditionally the one who receives care and attention from the older members, not the other way around. Jong-in flipped that expectation from the very beginning, and he has never stopped. JYP Entertainment has acknowledged this dynamic in multiple settings, with staff pointing out that Jong-in's emotional intelligence is unusually advanced for his age, and that his presence backstage has a measurable calming effect on the atmosphere of the entire team. He is not the loudest member, he is not the one who dominates interviews, and he is not the one the media typically focuses on when covering Stray Kids. But inside JYP's building, among the people who see these 8 men every single day without a filter of a camera, Yang Jong-in is frequently cited as the member whose kindness you feel before you even notice it. And that kind of quiet, persistent decency in an industry designed to reward spectacle over substance might be the most remarkable thing about him. But if you think the youngest member set a high bar for genuine generosity, wait until you hear what number 7 did when absolutely nobody in the public was paying attention.
Number 7, the one who loves honestly when the industry rewards pretending, Seungmin. Kim Seungmin was born on September 22, 2000 in Seoul, South Korea, and unlike several of his group mates who arrived at JYP Entertainment with years of prior training or natural prodigy-level talent, Seungmin entered the company through a public audition with a relatively modest skill set and an almost stubborn belief that hard work could close any gap. He joined JYP Entertainment in 2017 after passing the company's open audition, which meant he had one of the shortest training periods of any Stray Kids member before the survival show began filming. In an environment where some of his fellow trainees had been refining their craft for years, Seungmin was essentially the newcomer walking into a room full of people who already knew the choreography, already understood studio recording techniques, and already had established relationships with the company's coaches and producers. The logical response for most people in that position would be to either overcompensate with forced confidence or retreat into insecurity. Seungmin did neither. What JYP staff observed during those early months and what they have referenced in company content and internal reflections since is that Seungmin responded to his own inexperience with a form of honesty so consistent it became his defining characteristic, not just with himself but with everyone around him. During the survival show, when members were under pressure to perform and emotions were running high, Seungmin became the person who would tell the other trainees the truth, clearly and without cruelty, when they needed to hear it. If a member's vocals were off during a rehearsal, Seungmin would say so directly, but he would also immediately follow it with a concrete suggestion or offer to practice together. If someone was overworking themselves to the point of physical breakdown, Seungmin was the one who would say plainly that rest was not weakness, that pushing through injury was not dedication, but recklessness. This kind of straightforward honesty is not common in K-pop trainee culture, where hierarchy, politeness norms, and the fear of standing out for the wrong reasons often prevent younger or newer trainees from speaking candidly. Seungmin apparently never received that memo. What makes this relevant to the broader conversation about kindness is that Seungmin's honesty has never been about being blunt for the sake of it. It has always been in service of the people around him. JYP Entertainment staff who have worked with multiple generations of the company's artists have noted that Seungmin's communication style is rare because it combines directness with genuine warmth in a way that does not feel contradictory. He will tell you exactly what he thinks, but the reason he is telling you is because he cares about your outcome, not because he wants to assert authority or prove he is right. This quality extended well beyond the survival show and into Stray Kids' active career. Within the group's daily operations, Seungmin became the unofficial mediator, the member other members go to when they need an honest perspective on something without the added layer of emotional performance. Bang Chan, the group's leader, has mentioned in live broadcasts that Seungmin's straightforwardness is something he personally relies on because in a group of 8 strong personalities, having one person who consistently communicates without ambiguity is not just helpful, but essential. But the dimension of Seungmin's character that JYP staff have highlighted when discussing behind-the-scenes kindness has less to do with his role within the group and more to do with how he treats the wider ecosystem of people around him. Seungmin is a deeply passionate fan of JYP Entertainment band Day 6, and his admiration for that group, particularly vocalist and bassist Young K, is one of the most well-documented fan-to-artist relationships within any K-pop company. What is less widely reported is how that dynamic reflects Seungmin's broader approach to the people he respects. Rather than simply admiring Day 6 from a distance, Seungmin actively built genuine friendships with the members by showing up, attending their concerts when his schedule allowed, publicly supporting their music on his personal platforms, and speaking about their artistry with the kind of specific, informed appreciation that makes it clear he is not performing fandom for content, but genuinely engaging with their work. Day 6 members have reciprocated, and the mutual respect between them is visible in their interactions. But what stands out is that Seungmin initiated this bridge at a time when he was a rookie, with no obligation to build relationships with senior artists and nothing to gain from it professionally. He did it because it was genuine, and JYP staff have pointed to this as an example of how Seungmin navigates the company's internal culture, with authenticity that disarms hierarchy. At music show recordings, where multiple groups from different companies converge for long filming days, Seungmin has been consistently observed by fans and staff interacting with artists from other agencies with warmth and ease that goes beyond the standard polite bow and greeting.
Fan accounts from pre-recordings, corroborated by social media posts from other artists' staff, describe Seungmin initiating conversations with junior artists who look nervous backstage, offering encouragement that is specific to their performance rather than generic praise, and remembering the names and positions of other groups' members even after a single meeting. For rookie groups in particular, who often feel invisible at music shows dominated by established acts, having a member of Stray Kids, a group that has sold millions of albums and headlined stadium tours, approach them with genuine interest is documented as being a significant morale boost. Seungmin has also been noted for his interactions with Stray Kids' own support staff during schedules. Stylists and makeup artists who have discussed their experiences working with JYP groups have mentioned that Seungmin is meticulous about making their jobs easier, sitting still during styling without fidgeting, arriving on time without reminders, and thanking them with specificity rather than routine pleasantries. He notices when a stylist has changed the way they approach his look and comments on it. He remembers which makeup artist prefers which working conditions, and he adjusts his behavior accordingly without being asked. These are not grand declarations of kindness. They are the daily mechanics of someone who pays attention to the people most others overlook. Then, there is his relationship with Stays on the Bubble platform, where Seungmin's communication style mirrors his in-person honesty. He shares genuine reflections about his growth as an artist, discusses the specific aspects of his vocal training he is working to improve, and engages with fans in a way that treats them as equals rather than an audience to be managed. During periods when fans have expressed frustration or sadness, Seungmin's documented response has been to acknowledge those feelings directly rather than deflecting with cheerful platitudes, and then to share his own honest perspective on whatever situation prompted the concern. This willingness to be real, consistently and without exception, in an industry that often incentivizes the exact opposite, is what JYP staff have identified as Seungmin's most distinctive form of kindness. He does not perform care, he practices it through a relentless commitment to treating every person around him, from the company's founder to the newest intern on a film set, with the same level of honest, attentive respect. And in a culture where kindness is often mistaken for softness, Seungmin has proven that the two are not even remotely the same. But if honest kindness is powerful, the member coming up at number 6 has demonstrated a version of generosity so quiet that even some of the most dedicated fans had no idea it was happening.
Number 6, the quiet guardian of the forgotten, Lee No. Lee Miho, known professionally as Lee No, was born on October 25, 1998, in Gimpo, South Korea, and his path to JYP Entertainment was fundamentally different from most idols who enter the K-pop training system during their early teenage years. Before he ever signed a trainee contract or stood in a JYP practice room, Miho was working in the professional dance industry, operating as a backup dancer for major acts, most notably touring with BTS during their 2017 Trilogy Episode 3, The Wings Tour. The life of a backup dancer in South Korea is notoriously grueling, characterized by long hours, minimal public recognition, and highly unpredictable financial compensation. It was during this period of financial instability, long before he had the backing of a major entertainment agency or the promise of a lucrative music career, that Miho made a decision that would define his approach to personal charity. He quietly signed up as a sponsor through the international non-governmental organization World Vision, committing a portion of his modest, hard-earned dancer's income to support a young child named Honest living in Africa. This was not a public relations move, it was a private commitment to share what little he had with someone who had even less. For years, this sponsorship remained entirely hidden from the public eye, only coming to light long after his debut when fans noticed a handwritten letter from Honest addressed to Miho during a brief behind-the-scenes broadcast where his personal belongings were visible. Even when the letter was spotted, Miho did not use the moment to expound on his generosity, instead keeping the details private and continuing his financial support without utilizing it as promotional material. This quiet consistency is a pattern JYP Entertainment staff have observed throughout his career, noting that Miho routinely separates his professional persona from his personal convictions. When he joined JYP Entertainment in 2017, he did so with only a few months of formal training before being cast in the survival show that formed Stray Kids. His trainee period was so brief that he struggled to adapt to the specialized vocal and performance systems of the agency, leading to his temporary elimination in the fourth episode of the show. JY Park's decision to eliminate him was a crushing blow, yet JYP staff who worked on the production noted that Miho's reaction backstage was not one of defeat, tears, or bitterness, but of quiet determination. He continued to arrive at the training center every single day to practice in the company's rooms and checked in on his fellow trainees, offering them dance guidance and emotional support even when his own future was completely uncertain. This period of adversity solidified his reputation within the company for exceptional character, aligning with JY Park's heavily emphasized corporate philosophy of humanity, which evaluates artists based on their integrity and treatment of others rather than raw talent alone. Miho's advocacy for the vulnerable extends deeply into animal welfare, a cause he has supported not through abstract statements but through direct, practical action. Miho is the owner of 3 cats, Soon-ai, Dung-ai, and Dory, and the story of how they became part of his life reflects a systematic refusal to treat animals as status symbols. Soon-ai was rescued from a veterinary clinic in Gimpo where the animal was facing abandonment and probable euthanasia. Dung-ai was adopted from an acquaintance who could no longer care for a litter of kittens, and Dory was sourced through a South Korean mobile application called Paw in Hand, which connects citizens with abandoned animals in government-run shelters who are awaiting adoption. Rather than purchasing purebred cats from commercial breeders or high-end pet stores to maintain a specific aesthetic, Miho chose to provide a loving home for animals that had been discarded by society. This personal commitment is backed by ongoing financial contributions to local shelters, often done anonymously to avoid media scrutiny and keep the focus purely on the welfare of the animals. JYP staff members have remarked that Miho frequently wears accessories from brands that donate a percentage of their proceeds to animal protection and environmental causes. Fans have documented him wearing safety pin earrings, animal rescue bracelets, and UNICEF rings during high-profile promotional cycles, television appearances, and photo shoots. By wearing these items on camera, Miho leverages the immense global visibility of Stray Kids to direct attention and financial support to these organizations without ever having to deliver a scripted speech or make a self-serving announcement about his charity work. In February 2024, the scale of his quiet philanthropy could no longer be kept entirely private when World Vision officially announced that Lee No had been appointed to the Bob Pierce Honor Club. This exclusive group is reserved for donors who have contributed cumulative amounts exceeding 100 million Korean won, equivalent to approximately $75,000, to the organization's humanitarian projects. The official press release from World Vision revealed that Miho's substantial donations had been directed toward global food crisis response efforts, specifically targeting children in impoverished regions facing severe malnutrition, as well as emergency relief funds during the devastating Turkey-Syria earthquake of 2023. The announcement surprised many in the industry because Miho had never once mentioned the scale of these donations on his social media accounts, during live broadcasts, or in interviews, proving that his financial support was driven by a genuine desire to effect change rather than a desire to curate a positive public image. Staff members working within JYP Entertainment have shared anecdotes about how this protective, caring nature manifests in his daily interactions within the company. Backstage at music broadcasts, where the environment is often chaotic and stressful, Miho is known for being incredibly protective of the group's performance staff and backup dancers. Having been a backup dancer himself, he possesses an acute understanding of the physical toll and lack of recognition they face. Production staff have noted that Miho is often the first to check on the physical well-being of dancers during long shoot days, ensuring they have access to hot food, water, and adequate rest periods between takes. He has been observed personally carrying heavy equipment or clearing performance spaces to prevent injury to the crew, tasks that are typically left to lower-level production staff. This respect for labor is a consistent theme in how Miho operates. He treats the staff not as facilitators of his success, but as equal partners in the production. His kindness is not characterized by public displays of affection or soft-spoken platitudes. Miho maintains a famously dry, direct, and sometimes stoic exterior on camera, but JYP staff emphasize that this makes his actions all the more authentic. He does not perform warmth for the cameras, but when the cameras are off, he is the first to quietly handle the practical needs of the people around him. During the group's intensive international tours, when jet lag and physical exhaustion are at their peak, Miho has been noted for monitoring his fellow group members' physical health, quietly preparing meals, or ensuring that the younger members get to rest first. He does not ask for acknowledgement for these actions, often brushing them off with a joke if they are pointed out by others. This refusal to commercialize his empathy is what makes Lee Miho's character so distinct within the highly managed landscape of modern K-pop. He understands the power of his platform, but he chooses to use it as a shield for others rather than a spotlight for himself. His charity is active, silent, and systemic, proving that the most profound acts of kindness are often the ones that require no audience to exist. But if Miho's silent protection of the vulnerable showed how much he values those who work behind the scenes, the member waiting at number 5 took a completely different approach to generosity, turning a personal struggle into a lifeline for thousands of people he had never met. Number 5, the voice that heals the quiet mind, Han. Han Ji-sung, known professionally as Han, was born on September 14, 2000, in Incheon, South Korea, but spent several crucial years of his childhood and adolescence living and studying in Malaysia, a unique international upbringing that gave him a distinct perspective on identity, belonging, and cultural adaptation. During his time in Malaysia, specifically residing in Ampang and attending Fairview International School, Han spent long periods isolated from his extended family and Korean cultural roots, developing a rich internal world and turning to music as a primary outlet for self-expression. He spent his free time writing poetry, learning to play the guitar, and listening to various genres of music, which helped him cope with the quiet struggles of being a foreign student in an international school system. When he returned to South Korea as a teenager, he did so under a strict agreement with his parents. He had a single year to secure a contract with a music agency, or he would return to Malaysia to focus on academic studies. He auditioned for JYP Entertainment alongside a friend, initially expecting to fail the highly competitive process, but his raw performance, rhythmic versatility, and intuitive songwriting capability immediately caught the attention of the agency's casting directors, leading to his enrollment as a formal trainee. Within the company's training system, Han quickly gravitated toward fellow trainees Bang Chan and Seo Changbin, forming the self-producing hip-hop unit 3 Racha under the pseudonym J.1. Long before their official television debut, the trio began uploading self-produced music to the digital platform SoundCloud in early 2017, releasing tracks that tackled complex social issues, academic burnout, and severe emotional isolation, which stood in stark contrast to the highly curated and lighthearted themes typical of the K-pop industry at the time. These early songs, including tracks like Runner's High and Subway Lines, showcased a level of psychological introspection unheard of for trainees. Han wrote these lyrics on his phone, detailing his experiences of leaving his family in Malaysia, feeling disconnected in Seoul, and wondering if his creative efforts would find an audience. As the group worked toward their debut on the Net Survival show, Han's versatile talents as a main rapper, lead vocalist, and producer made him an indispensable pillar of the lineup. But the sudden transition from an anonymous student to a globally visible public figure took a severe psychological toll. In December 2019, JYP Entertainment took the unusual step of releasing a detailed official statement addressing Han's mental health, revealing that he was experiencing symptoms of intermittent social anxiety. The agency explained that while Han was fully capable of performing on stage in front of thousands of fans, he suffered from severe anxiety, nervousness, and emotional distress when placed in close proximity to large groups of people in confined spaces, particularly during fan meetings, press events, and promotional activities. In the highly competitive and historically conservative environment of the South Korean entertainment industry, admitting that an active idol was struggling with mental illness was a rare and risky decision, as agencies historically preferred to cover up such struggles under the guise of physical illness or fatigue. However, JYP's disclosure was part of a larger, systemic shift within the company, which had recently established an internal psychological counseling and wellness program designed specifically to support its artists and trainees. JYP had championed this initiative after recognizing the extreme pressure placed on young idols, and Han became one of the first major artists to openly utilize and discuss this resource. The system includes confidential therapy sessions, clinical psychologists, and stress management workshops. Rather than withdrawing or hiding his struggles, Han chose to engage with his therapy and speak openly about his progress during group streams, normalizing mental health care for his peers and fans. This vulnerability was not confined to company statements or casual interviews. Han actively integrated his psychological struggles into his creative output, transforming his personal battles with anxiety and isolation into a source of comfort for others. Under the pseudonym J.1, Han is registered as a member of the Korea Music Copyright Association with dozens of songwriting credits, and his solo compositions are characterized by their raw, unfiltered exploration of psychological distress. He is currently one of the youngest registered songwriters to hold so many credits, a testament to his prolific output and dedication to documenting his emotional landscape. In January 2021, he released the self-produced track Alien through the group's SKZ record platform, a song in which he compares his experience with anxiety and depression to being a misplaced extraterrestrial stranded on an inhospitable planet, unable to communicate his pain to the people around him. Similarly, in the track Slump, which served as the ending theme for the anime series Tower of God, Han wrote about the paralyzing fear of stagnation, the feeling of watching everyone else move forward while remaining trapped in one's own failures, and the physical exhaustion of trying to maintain a facade of strength. By articulating these complex, dark emotional states with precise, unsentimental lyricism, Han provided a vocabulary for young people worldwide who were struggling to explain their own mental health battles to their families and friends. JYP staff members who work closely with Han in the recording studios have noted that his creative process is deeply empathetic. He frequently consults with the engineers, producers, and fellow members to ensure that the emotional tone of the music is authentic and supportive rather than merely commercial. Despite his internal battle with crowd anxiety, staff backstage at music broadcasts have repeatedly documented Han's efforts to maintain a positive, light-hearted atmosphere for the production crew and his fellow members. Managers and stylists have shared that Han frequently uses humor, impressions, and high-energy interactions to diffuse tension during long, stressful filming days, prioritizing the emotional comfort of the staff even when he is personally experiencing high levels of sensory overload. When his anxiety manifests physically backstage, his fellow members immediately form a protective circle around him, quietly holding his hand or shielding him from cameras, a collective response facilitated by Han's own willingness to communicate his boundaries. He is known to privately thank the security personnel and managers who coordinate the logistics of crowd control at airports and public venues, recognizing that their work directly shields him from the environments that trigger his anxiety. His gratitude is expressed not through grand public statements, but through quiet, personal acknowledgments and small gestures of respect toward the working-class staff members who make his public appearances possible. This duality, being an artist who experiences intense anxiety in public spaces while remaining deeply committed to comforting others through his music and personal interactions, defines Han's distinct form of kindness. He does not allow his personal limitations to harden his character. Instead, he uses his lived experience with suffering to develop a more profound sensitivity to the struggles of those around him. By showing that a top-tier K-pop artist can struggle with social anxiety, attend therapy, take necessary breaks, and still produce world-class music, Han has dismantled industry taboos and provided a practical blueprint for self-care and mutual support. JYP's internal wellness team has cited his progress and openness as a prime example of how professional mental health support can sustain a career and foster a healthier community, proving that the courage to show one's weakness can ultimately become a source of strength for millions. But if Han's courage lay in transforming internal psychological struggles into a message of comfort, the member waiting at number 4 demonstrated a form of physical and financial generosity that went far beyond borders, leaving JYP executives and charity directors alike completely astonished by the sheer scale of his silent actions. Number 4, the global ambassador of quiet grace, Felix. Lee Felix, whose Korean name is Lee Youngbok, was born on September 15, 2000, in Sydney, Australia, and his decision to move to South Korea in 2017 to join JYP Entertainment was a massive leap of faith that came with severe personal and cultural challenges. Arriving in a foreign country with only a rudimentary grasp of the Korean language, Felix had to navigate the highly structured, high-pressure environment of the K-pop trainee system while dealing with homesickness and intense cultural alienation. During this challenging transition, he practiced Korean by reading children's books and watching animated shows, slowly building his vocabulary while translation apps served as his main bridge to the surrounding world. During the 2017 Stray Kids survival show, he faced the ultimate setback when he was eliminated by JYP due to his language barrier and performance instability, a moment that devastated the other members who had grown to rely on his warm, stabilizing presence. Even during this period of exclusion, JYP staff noted that Felix did not leave the training center. Instead, he continued to show up at the agency early in the morning to practice his pronunciation and assist his former competitors with their routines, demonstrating a profound lack of ego that eventually led to his reinstatement in the final lineup. He later translated this linguistic struggle into active empathy for foreign trainees who joined JYP in subsequent years, spending his free hours mentoring them, helping them translate documents, and offering language assistance so they would not experience the same intense isolation he did. This early resilience was later tested by severe physical challenges. In early 2022, Felix was diagnosed with a herniated intervertebral disc in his lumbar spine, a chronic and highly painful condition that severely restricted his physical movement and forced him to limit his participation in the intensive choreography for the group's Maniac promotional cycle. Despite experiencing persistent physical discomfort that made daily tasks difficult, Felix maintained an uncomplaining, supportive presence backstage, focusing on vocal performance and assisting his group mates during rehearsals to minimize the operational burden on the team. Once Stray Kids achieved global commercial success, Felix did not redirect his focus toward luxury consumption or personal fame. Instead, he immediately began implementing a systematic plan for global philanthropy. In 2020, he quietly registered as a donor with Save the Children, an international non-governmental organization dedicated to improving the lives of children through better education, healthcare, and economic opportunities, specifically sponsoring children overseas and donating to local lunchbox programs for low-income Korean youth. Over the next 3 years, he consistently directed portions of his earnings to the organization, focusing on emergency relief for children facing domestic abuse and economic deprivation. In March 2023, Save the Children officially announced that Felix had been appointed to their Honors Club, which recognizes donors who have contributed cumulative amounts exceeding 30 million won, a milestone that he did not publicize on his own social channels. This was merely a prelude to a much larger, historic act of generosity that occurred in January 2024, when the Korean Committee for UNICEF revealed that Felix had donated 100 million Korean won, approximately $75,000, to support children in Laos. This massive contribution officially made him the youngest member in the history of the UNICEF Honors Club, a prestigious group of major donors that includes legendary South Korean figures from sports, business, and entertainment. The donation was specifically earmarked for clean water, sanitation, and hygiene reconstruction projects in Laotian villages, as well as nutrition programs for children suffering from severe physical wasting. While the financial donation was significant, it was Felix's subsequent actions that truly stunned both JYP Entertainment executives and the general public. In February 2024, during a rare, week-long official vacation granted to the members after a grueling year of international stadium tours and promotional cycles, Felix did not return to Sydney to visit his family or travel to a luxury tourist destination. Instead, he quietly flew to Laos to work as an active, boots-on-the-ground volunteer for UNICEF. JYP Entertainment did not issue a press release or send a camera crew to document this trip. It was entirely self-funded and private. The public only became aware of his actions when local residents and tourists spotted Felix walking through rural Laotian villages wearing a blue UNICEF volunteer t-shirt, carrying supplies, and eating at humble local diners. UNICEF later confirmed that during his trip to Adapoo province, Felix visited local primary schools, participated in health and sanitation education programs, inspected the installation of clean water filtration systems funded by his donations, and taught English vocabulary to young children in impoverished areas. He stayed in basic accommodations without modern amenities, sleeping on simple mats and eating the same local food as the field workers, using his personal time to physically execute the work his donations funded. He also spent time playing basic recreational games, drawing with crayons he bought, and exchanging simple hand gestures to communicate across language barriers, leaving a deep impression on local coordinators who remarked that he did not carry himself like an international superstar, but like a genuine humanitarian worker. Beyond these large-scale global initiatives, Felix's daily life within the JYP Entertainment ecosystem is defined by physical acts of service that require substantial personal labor. Backstage at television networks, broadcast stations, and music show recordings, Felix is famous among production staff, backup dancers, security teams, and styling crews for his practice of hand-baking large quantities of desserts, particularly brownies and cookies. Rather than outsourcing this task or purchasing commercial gift sets, Felix routinely spends his sleeping hours, often staying up until 4 a.m. after completing an 18-hour promotional schedule, baking hundreds of individual treats in the group's kitchen. He purchases all the baking ingredients himself using his personal funds, selects high-quality elements, and has even adapted his recipes to accommodate staff members with food allergies or dietary restrictions by preparing gluten-free and vegan options. He then packages them individually, writing handwritten thank you notes, and personally distributes them to every staff member on set, from the senior directors to the junior cleaning crew. Managers have also noted that Felix consistently remains behind after recordings to clean up the group's dressing rooms, picking up plastic bottles, sorting trash, and organizing makeup tables to reduce the workload of the venue's cleaning crews. JYP managers have remarked that this behavior is entirely self-motivated and has occurred consistently throughout the group's career, regardless of how exhausted Felix is. This hands-on, labor-intensive approach to kindness is what distinguishes Felix's philanthropy. He does not merely write checks from a distance, but physically invests his time, energy, and labor to ensure that the people around him feel valued and supported. Whether he is working in the mud of a rural schoolyard in Laos or standing in a hot kitchen in Seoul after a broadcast, Felix operates with a consistent, unassuming humility that JYP staff have cited as a model for corporate citizenship within the entertainment industry. He has turned his platform into a vehicle for tangible, material relief, proving that true empathy is defined by what you are willing to give up when no one is holding a camera. But if Felix's global outreach showed the international impact of the group's generosity, the member waiting at number 3 demonstrated how quiet kindness can completely transform the internal culture of the agency itself. operating as a silent anchor for everyone in the building. Number 3. The unshakable pillar of group unity, Changbin. Changbin was born on August 11, 1999, in Hyunjin, South Korea, and while global audiences know him as the powerful, fast-spitting main rapper of Stray Kids who projects an aggressive, dark stage persona, JYP Entertainment staff and industry insiders know him as the vital emotional anchor whose quiet kindness completely transformed the internal culture of the agency itself. K-pop training centers are notoriously hyper-competitive environments where young trainees are pitted against one another for a limited number of debut spots, a system that naturally breeds jealousy, anxiety, and deep insecurity. When Changbin entered JYP Entertainment in 2016 after being scouted at a dance academy, he quickly established himself as a prodigy in rap composition. But instead of using his superior skill level to dominate or alienate his peers, he chose to use his position to elevate them. JYP trainers and staff members who worked with the pre-debut trainees have shared documented accounts of Changbin spending his late-night hours, long after his mandatory training sessions had concluded, sitting with struggling trainees to help them find their vocal rhythms and write lyrics. During this pre-debut era, he was active in the self-producing Unit 3 Racha alongside Bang Chan and Han, writing raw, analytical lyrics that questioned academic pressure and social expectations. Rather than focusing solely on his own survival, Changbin routinely counseled fellow trainees who were contemplating leaving the agency due to immense mental stress, helping them recognize that their self-worth was not defined by the company's monthly evaluation scores. Trainees in the K-pop system are often financially insecure, receiving only basic support from their agencies while facing uncertain futures. Changbin, despite coming from a relatively wealthy family, refused to flaunt his background and instead quietly used his personal money to buy meals, transport tickets, and basic necessities for trainees who were struggling to make ends meet, doing so in a way that preserved their dignity and avoided any display of patronizing charity. This protective, egalitarian philosophy became the foundation of Stray Kids' internal culture when the group was formed. In South Korean society, age-based hierarchy is deeply institutionalized, requiring younger individuals to use formal language and defer to older members, a dynamic that can create invisible barriers and prevent open communication within a music group. JYP himself has highlighted that Changbin was instrumental in dismantling these traditional hierarchical barriers within Stray Kids. From the very beginning, Changbin insisted that the younger members, including Han, Felix, Seungmin, and Hyunjin, treat him as an equal and voice their opinions, complaints, and creative ideas without fear of social repercussions. When conflicts arose during the group's highly stressful early career, Changbin served as the primary emotional mediator, creating a safe space where members could resolve interpersonal friction through structured, honest dialogue rather than letting resentment fester. This structural mediation is a primary reason JYP executives frequently cite Stray Kids as one of the most stable and unified groups in the history of the company. Beyond his internal role as the group's emotional anchor, Changbin's quiet generosity extends to global humanitarian efforts, which he has consistently supported without seeking media attention or using his charity work as promotional content. On February 16, 2023, following the catastrophic earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria, causing immense loss of life and displacement, Changbin quietly donated 100 million Korean won, approximately $75,000, to the Hope Bridge National Disaster Relief Association to fund emergency shelters, temporary housing kits, winter clothing, medical supplies, and food distribution programs for the victims in the devastated regions of Kahramanmaraş and Hatay. He did not make a post on his personal social media accounts or mention the donation during his live broadcasts. The public only learned of his massive contribution when the Hope Bridge Association officially published their list of major donors and announced Changbin's induction into the Hope Bridge Honors Club. JYP staff have noted that this silent approach to philanthropy is characteristic of Changbin, who believes that charity should be practiced to resolve material crises rather than to build a positive public relations profile. This philosophy is also reflected in his daily interactions with JYP's operational staff, including managers, road coordinators, security personnel, and venue crews. Staff members have shared that Changbin possesses an unusual level of emotional intelligence, allowing him to quickly read the emotional atmosphere of a backstage room and detect when a staff member is experiencing high stress, physical exhaustion, or emotional distress. Rather than ignoring these dynamics, Changbin makes a point of approaching the affected staff member privately, offering words of encouragement, or using his natural sense of humor to diffuse tension and restore a sense of camaraderie. Managers have documented that during grueling international tours, when the staff's workload is immense and sleep deprivation is common, Changbin frequently coordinates with the group's lead management to ensure that the production crew's resting schedules are respected and that they receive adequate food and support. He has been observed physically assisting them with packing heavy equipment bags, sorting catering trash, and organizing luggage to lighten their physical load. He treats the staff not as employees hired to facilitate his success, but as valued colleagues who share the same artistic goals. JYP has publicly praised Changbin's maturity on multiple occasions, highlighting his ability to receive constructive criticism objectively and maintain an ego-free working environment as key factors in the group's longevity. This respect for labor and commitment to the well-being of others has created a uniquely supportive environment within JYP's building, where staff members frequently express a preference for working with Stray Kids due to the mutual respect established by Changbin and the other members. Changbin has proved that a powerful artist does not need to project dominance backstage to be respected. Instead, he has built his authority on a foundation of empathy, mediation, and quiet, material support for those around him. He is the silent engine that keeps the group's internal culture healthy, cohesive, and grounded, demonstrating that the most impactful leadership is often the kind that works in the background to ensure everyone else can stand strong. But if Changbin's strength lay in acting as the unshakable mediator who kept the group's foundation solid, the member waiting at number 2 took his personal gratitude for the career he almost lost and turned it into an active, artistic lifeline for children who had never experienced the joy of sound. Number 2, the artist who shares the gift of sound, Hyunjin. Hyunjin was born on March 20, 2000, in Seoul, South Korea, and while he is recognized globally as the charismatic main dancer and visual center of Stray Kids whose high-energy performances command major stadium stages, his private life is characterized by a quiet, introspective dedication to fine art, personal reflection, and a deeply symbolic approach to philanthropy. Hyunjin's path to JYP Entertainment was completely unexpected, having been cast on the street by an agency representative while shopping with his mother, walking into the audition room with no prior dance training or vocal experience. During his early trainee years starting in 2016, he faced harsh criticism from coaches and peers who labeled him as someone who would only succeed due to his physical appearance, a label that motivated him to spend consecutive nights in JYP's basement practice rooms training until his feet bled and his physical stamina gave out, earning a reputation among senior instructors for a relentless work ethic. The trajectory of Hyunjin's career was dramatically altered in early 2021 when he became the subject of intense public scrutiny, leading JYP Entertainment to place him on an official 5-month hiatus to allow for self-reflection and personal growth. In the K-pop industry, a prolonged hiatus at the peak of a group's rising popularity is a critical, high-risk period that often marks the permanent decline or termination of an artist's career, and for Hyunjin, this was a time of profound emotional weight as he faced the realistic prospect of losing the life and calling he had trained for. Rather than retreating into resentment or defeat, Hyunjin utilized this forced period of isolation to engage in deep introspection, dedicating his days to rigorous dance training, classical drawing, and oil painting, using these artistic mediums to process his complex emotions and cultivate a profound sense of gratitude for the career he had almost lost. When JYP Entertainment approved his return to active promotions in July 2021, the agency's staff immediately observed a structural shift in how Hyunjin interacted with his environment. He possessed a heightened awareness of the fragility of his position and a determination to express his gratitude not through public relations statements, but through quiet, long-term commitments to social welfare. This commitment culminated in a deeply symbolic act of charity on his birthday, March 20, 2024, when Hyunjin quietly donated 100 million Korean won, approximately $75,000, to the South Korean social welfare organization The Snail of Love. The Snail of Love is a specialized charity that supports individuals with hearing impairments, specifically funding artificial cochlear implant surgeries, language rehabilitation therapy, and the distribution of hearing aids to children from low-income families who would otherwise remain trapped in a world of silence. The choice of this specific charity was highly deliberate. As a dancer and musician whose entire existence is defined by his relationship with sound, rhythm, and melody, Hyunjin wanted to turn his personal gratitude for his career into a physical cure for children, allowing them to experience the joy of hearing music and the sounds of nature for the first time. Through this donation, Hyunjin became a member of the Snail of Love Soul Leader Club, a prestigious designation reserved for major donors who have contributed over 99 million won, but typical of his approach to charity. He did not publish the donation on his personal social media accounts or utilize it to curate a favorable public image. This was not the first time he had made a substantial, unpublicized contribution to humanitarian causes. In February 2023, following the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, Hyunjin quietly donated 100 million won to the international relief organization The Promise to support emergency disaster relief efforts, including funding search operations, medical aid, temporary housing units, hygiene kits, and winter clothing, a contribution that was only revealed when the organization officially registered him in their honor club for major donors. Backstage within the JYP entertainment ecosystem, managers, stylists, and production crews have noted that Hyunjin's post-hiatus return was characterized by a profound, visible humility and a systematic effort to care for the staff members who work behind the scenes. Stylists who have worked with Stray Kids for years have shared that Hyunjin has become exceptionally attentive to their working conditions, making a point of remaining completely still during long fitting sessions, arriving early for schedules, and personally cleaning his dressing area before departing a venue to reduce the workload of the local cleaning staff. Following his return, he also began a practice of writing personal, handwritten thank you notes to the senior managers and production directors who had supported him during his difficult period, acknowledging their labor and emotional support with a level of specificity that is rare among top-tier K-pop artists. He also began sharing his oil and acrylic paintings with fans and staff under the tag Hyunjin's Art, having spent up to 10 hours at a time during his off days studying art history books and YouTube tutorials to self-teach advanced canvas techniques. JYP executives were so impressed by his artistic output that they permitted him to display several of his original paintings in the company's internal lounges, and he frequently gifted completed canvases to his fellow group members as a sign of appreciation. He explained in JYP-produced documentaries that he viewed his art not as a commercial asset, but as a therapeutic medium to connect with others and offer comfort to those experiencing their own periods of isolation and self-doubt. This integration of art, personal recovery, and philanthropy defines Hyunjin's approach to kindness. He does not allow his personal limitations to harden his character. Instead, he uses his lived experience with suffering to develop a more profound sensitivity to the struggles of others. By funding surgeries that restore hearing to children and using his personal art to provide emotional solace, Hyunjin has demonstrated that the most authentic way to express gratitude for a second chance is to actively build lifelines for those who are struggling in silence. He has transformed what could have been a career-ending crisis into a source of profound, systemic generosity, proving that the value of an artist is defined not by the perfection of their past, but by the depth of their commitment to the welfare of others. But if Hyunjin's journey of artistic recovery showed the power of turning personal gratitude into a lifeline for the vulnerable, the member waiting at number 1 represents the ultimate origin of the group's entire culture. A leader who built Stray Kids from scratch and has spent nearly a decade sacrificing his own physical and mental well-being to ensure that his members and staff are always protected. Number 1. The self-sacrificing architect of the clan, Bang Chan. Christopher Bang, known professionally as Bang Chan, was born on October 3, 1997, in Seoul, South Korea, but was raised in Sydney, Australia, before returning to his birth country in 2010 after passing a JYP Entertainment Global audition. His entry into the K-pop training system began a grueling, 7-year trainee period, during which he watched multiple generations of his closest friends and roommates debut in successful groups like GOT7, Day6, and Twice, while he remained behind in the practice rooms, facing constant uncertainty about whether he would ever stand on a professional stage. During these long years, he trained alongside future stars like Bam Bam, Yugyeom, Nayeon, Sana, and Young K, sharing meals, dorm rooms, and training routines, and watching them leave one by one to achieve global stardom while his own debut was repeatedly delayed. This prolonged period of isolation and waiting did not embitter him. Instead, it instilled a profound sense of responsibility and empathy that would reshape the corporate structure of JYP Entertainment. In 2017, JYP took the unprecedented step of bypassing the agency's traditional casting committee, granting Bang Chan the sole authority to select the trainees who would form a new boy group. Chan handpicked every member of Stray Kids based on personal character, artistic synergy, and mutual trust, establishing a family dynamic rather than a manufactured corporate team. He selected I.N for his resilience, Seungmin for his vocal consistency, Felix and Hyunjin for their performance dedication, Lee No for his dance leadership, and Changbin and Han to build the creative producing nucleus of 3 Racha. Within the agency's training rooms, he began writing tracks that challenged traditional musical structures, recording compositions on simple digital audio workstations. They uploaded these songs to SoundCloud in the early hours of the morning, building a following that appreciated their raw, honest descriptions of youth. When his members Felix and Lee No were eliminated during the survival show broadcast, Chan was visibly devastated, taking the blame for their failure and promising to work twice as hard to improve their skills, forcing JYP to reconsider the eliminations and debut the group as a complete unit. As the group's leader, Chan assumed a protective role that went far beyond typical industry expectations, acting as a shield between his members and the intense pressures of the entertainment industry. This protective instinct is most clearly demonstrated in his approach to music production. As the primary composer and arranger within the producing unit 3 Racha, Chan has registered over 180 songs with the Korea Music Copyright Association. JYP studio engineers and producers have documented that Chan routinely works consecutive 30-hour shifts in the recording studio, often skipping meals and sleeping on the floor of the production room in JYP's Gangdong-gu headquarters to ensure that the group's musical arrangements are completed to perfection. He acts as the main vocal director for every album recording session, as the members feel most secure and comfortable under his direct guidance rather than working with external corporate vocal trainers. Rather than outsourcing the tedious digital editing and vocal tuning processes to third-party engineers, Chan performs this labor himself to protect the unique artistic identity of his members, consistently deflecting public praise to the other 7 men while taking sole responsibility for any failures or criticisms. This self-sacrificing nature is not confined to the recording studio. It extended to a massive, voluntary public service known as Chan's Room. For 208 consecutive weeks between January 2019 and August 2023, Chan hosted a weekly, live-streamed broadcast from his studio or hotel rooms, typically airing past 2 a.m. after exhausting promotional schedules. Setting up his laptop webcam on platforms like VLive and later YouTube, he interacted in real time with comments in both English and Korean, regardless of time zones, playing various musical genres, recommending independent artists, and speaking candidly about self-love. During these broadcasts, which JYP Entertainment did not mandate, script, or financially subsidize, Chan created a global safe space where he listened to fans' personal problems, discussed mental health, and offered music therapy to millions of viewers. JYP staff noted that Chan viewed these sessions as a direct moral obligation to the fandom's well-being, prioritizing the emotional stability of his audience over his own physical need for sleep. His quiet philanthropy is equally systemic. On his birthday, October 3, 2024, Chan quietly donated 100 million Korean won, approximately $75,000 to the Community Chest of Korea, a leading social welfare organization. The donation was directed towards supporting children with developmental disabilities, funding specialized therapy, educational facilities, and daily living support services, officially earning him membership in the Honor Society, a status he did not publicize on any of his personal platforms. Backstage at music broadcasts and international stadium concerts, production crews have repeatedly documented Chan's extraordinary respect for the working-class labor that supports the K-pop industry. He is known to remain behind after stadium shows to personally carry heavy camera tripods and equipment bags for the local crew, and he systematically cleans the dressing rooms, collecting trash and organizing catering tables. Because of his bilingual upbringing, Chan frequently acts as an unpaid translator for international production teams during world tours, ensuring that local staff feel respected and understood. JYP has publicly declared that Bang Chan's self-sacrificing leadership is the foundation upon which Stray Kids' global success is built, citing his humility and protective nature as qualities that have redefined the company's internal standards. By building a group based on character, dedicating his physical health to their production, offering weekly emotional support to millions, and quietly funding support systems for disabled children, Bang Chan has proven that the ultimate form of kindness is not a series of isolated gestures, but a lifelong commitment to standing as a shield for others. And that is the real reason Stray Kids made it to the top, because their leader built a foundation that could never be broken.